Ladies and gentlemen, most people go to bed with their minds racing, replaying every mistake from the day, worrying about tomorrow's problems. But what if I told you that the last 10 minutes before you sleep could completely transform your entire existence? What if those precious moments held the key to unlocking a life of unshakable peace and unstoppable inner strength? Tonight I'm going to share with you 9 ancient principles that have been hidden away in monastery walls for centuries. These aren't just philosophical concepts. They're practical tools that will rewire your brain, calm your spirit, and set you on a path toward true enlightenment. By the end of this video, you have a complete nighttime practice that will change everything about how you experience life. Let me paint a picture that probably sounds familiar. You crawl into bed exhausted from another day of rushing from one task to another. Your mind immediately starts its nightly performance, replaying conversations, analyzing decisions, creating scenarios about things that might never happen. You toss and turn, checking your phone, scrolling through social media, desperately trying to quiet the chaos in your head. This isn't just about having trouble sleeping. This restless mind is stealing your peace, your clarity, and your ability to truly live. When we go to bed in chaos, we wake up in chaos. When we end our day without intention, we begin the next day without direction. The state of your mind before sleep becomes the foundation for everything that follows. Modern life has taught us to be constantly reactive. We react to emails, to social media notifications, to other people's opinions, to circumstances beyond our control. We've forgotten how to be the calm center in the middle of the storm. We've lost touch with the profound power that comes from inner stillness. But what if everything you've been told about finding peace is wrong? What if the answer isn't in changing your external circumstances, but in transforming your internal landscape? What if the secret to an extraordinary life has been waiting for you in the quiet moments before sleep? The art of mental clearing. The first principle begins with understanding that your mind is like a glass of muddy water. Throughout the day, every experience, every emotion, every thought stirs up the sediment. Most people try to clear the water by stirring it more, thinking harder, analyzing deeper, fighting their thoughts. This only makes the water cloudier. The ancient masters understood something profound. If you simply stop stirring, the mud naturally settles to the bottom. The water becomes crystal clear without any effort. Your mind works the same way. When you lie down each night, instead of engaging with every thought that arises, you simply observe them without judgment, without resistance. Here's how you practice this. As you settle into bed, imagine your thoughts as clouds passing through the sky of your consciousness. You don't try to grab the clouds or push them away. You simply watch them drift by. Some thoughts will try to hook your attention. That argument from work, tomorrow's presentation, that thing you forgot to do. Notice the thought, acknowledge it like greeting an old friend, and then let it continue on its journey. This isn't about emptying your mind completely. That's impossible and not the goal. But it's about changing your relationship with your thoughts. Instead of being swept away by every mental wave, you become the calm observer standing on the shore watching the waves come and go. Most people have never experienced what true mental stillness feels like because they've been conditioned to believe that constant thinking equals productivity. We live in a world that celebrates the busy mind, that treats mental chatter as proof of intelligence and engagement. But the wise ones throughout history knew something different. They understood that a mind in perpetual motion is like trying to see your reflection in choppy water. Everything becomes distorted and unclear. When you first attempt this practice, don't be surprised if your mind fights back. It's been running on autopilot for so long that the idea of simply observing without reacting feels strange, even uncomfortable. You might feel guilty, like you're being lazy or wasting precious time that could be spent solving problems or planning for tomorrow. This resistance is completely normal and actually a good sign that you're beginning to break free from compulsive thinking patterns. The key is to approach your thoughts with the same gentle curiosity you might have when watching birds in your backyard. You don't judge the birds for being there. You don't try to control which direction they fly. And you don't get upset when they leave. You simply enjoy observing their natural behavior. Your thoughts deserve the same kind of peaceful attention. As you continue this practice night after night, something interesting begins to happen. You start to recognize the difference between useful thoughts that deserve your attention and mental noise that you can safely ignore. Not all thoughts are created equal. Some thoughts are invitations to creative solutions, moments of genuine insight, or important reminders about things that truly matter. Other thoughts are just repetitive worry loops, old grievances that serve no purpose, or anxious projections about futures that will probably never happen. This awareness becomes incredibly liberating. Instead of being at the mercy of every random mental event, you develop the ability to consciously choose which thoughts to engage with and which to let pass. It's like becoming the editor of your own mental newspaper, deciding what stories are worth your time and attention. You'll also begin to notice the spaces between thoughts, those brief moments of natural silence that exist in every mind, but usually go unrecognized. So, these gaps aren't empty or boring. They're actually where your deepest peace and clarity live. As you practice, these quiet spaces become longer and more frequent, giving you access to a level of calm that exists beneath all the mental activity. The benefits extend far beyond bedtime to your waking hours. When stressful situations arise, you'll find yourself automatically stepping into observer mode instead of getting caught up in reactive thinking. That annoying coworker's comment doesn't instantly trigger a cascade of angry thoughts. That unexpected bill doesn't immediately send you spiraling into financial worry. You still feel emotions and have reactions, but there's a space of awareness that allows you to respond consciously rather than react automatically. People around you will start to sense something different about your presence. There's a quality of groundedness that comes from someone who isn't constantly wrestling with their own mind. Conversations become more meaningful because you're truly present instead of mentally preparing your next response. Your focus improves because you're not constantly distracted by irrelevant mental chatter. When you practice this consistently, something remarkable happens. Your nervous system begins to associate bedtime with peace instead of anxiety. Your brain learns that this is the time for rest, not for problem solving. The quality of your sleep improves dramatically, and you wake up with a clarity that you haven't felt in years. But more importantly, you discover that you carry within yourself a source of calm that no external circumstance can disturb. The power of grateful reflection. The second principle involves a practice that most people get completely wrong. They think gratitude is about listing things they should be thankful for, forcing positivity when they don't feel it. True grateful reflection is something much deeper and more transformative. Each night, instead of focusing on what went wrong or what you're worried about, you gently guide your attention to 3 specific moments from your day. Not the biggest or most obvious things, but small moments where you experience genuine connection, beauty, or growth. Maybe it was the warmth of your morning coffee, the smile from a stranger, the satisfaction of completing a task, or even the lesson hidden within a challenge. The key is to not just think about these moments, but to actually re-experience them in your body. Feel the warmth again, see the colors. Hear the sounds, let yourself sink into the physical memory of these experiences. This isn't just positive thinking, it's rewiring your brain to notice and appreciate the richness that already exists in your life. When you do this consistently, your brain begins to actively seek out these moments during the day. Instead of being tuned to problems and threats, your consciousness becomes naturally attuned to beauty and opportunity. Your entire perception of reality shifts from scarcity to abundance, from fear to appreciation. Most people live their lives like detectives searching for problems. They wake up each morning scanning for what might go wrong, what's missing, what needs to be fixed. This isn't their fault. Our brains evolved to notice threats and problems because that helped our ancestors survive. But in modern life, this constant problem focus creates unnecessary suffering and blinds us to the richness that surrounds us every moment. Grateful reflection isn't about pretending problems don't exist or forcing yourself to feel happy about difficult situations. It's about training your attention to notice the full spectrum of your experience, including the good that's already present. When you consistently look for moments of beauty, connection, and growth, you begin to see that they're everywhere. Think about this for a moment. In any given day, how many small miracles do you experience without noticing the fact that your heart beats automatically, that your lungs breathe without conscious effort, that your body heals cuts and bruises while you sleep? The amazing reality that you can think thoughts, feel emotions, and create meaning from experience. The incredible truth that you exist at all in this vast universe, but it goes beyond these big philosophical appreciations. There are dozens of smaller moments each day that contain genuine beauty and meaning if you train yourself to notice them. The way sunlight filters through your window in the morning, the satisfying click of turning off your computer after completing a project, the moment of connection when someone really listens to what you're saying, the feeling of your muscles relaxing, when you finally sit down after a long day, when you practice grateful reflection each night, you're not just remembering these moments, you're actually reliving them at a cellular level. Scientists have discovered that when you vividly recall an experience, your brain activates many of the same neural pathways that fired during the original experience. You're literally giving yourself a second dose of the positive emotions and physical sensations. This has profound effects on your nervous system. Instead of ending each day in a state of stress or worry, you're flooding your system with appreciation and contentment. This doesn't just feel good in the moment. It changes the chemical environment of your body and brain in ways that promote healing, creativity, and resilience. Over time, this practice creates a fundamental shift in how you experience reality. Instead of life being something that happens to you, full of random problems and occasional pleasant surprises, life becomes something rich with meaning and beauty that you're actively participating in and appreciating. You start noticing this change in how you move through your days. Instead of rushing from task to task, focused only on what needs to be accomplished, you'll find yourself naturally pausing to appreciate small moments. You'll notice colors more vividly, taste your food more fully, feel more connected to the people around you. This practice also creates a profound sense of completion for each day. Instead of carrying the day's unfinished business into your sleep, you close each chapter with recognition and gratitude. This allows your subconscious mind to process and integrate the day's experiences in a positive way, leading to more restful sleep and clearer morning insights. But perhaps, most importantly, grateful reflection connects you to deeper truth about existence itself, that life is constantly offering you gifts, and your happiness depends not on getting different gifts, but on developing the capacity to recognize and appreciate the ones you're already receiving. This recognition transforms you from someone who is waiting for life to get better into someone who is actively engaged with the beauty and meaning that exists right now. The wisdom of accepting what is the third principle addresses one of the greatest sources of human suffering, our constant battle against reality. Every night, millions of people lie in bed fighting with what happened during the day, wishing things were different, replaying scenarios where they said or did something else. This mental resistance creates enormous internal tension. It's like trying to change the past by thinking about it differently or control the future by worrying about it. The ancient masters understood that this resistance doesn't change anything external, but it destroys our internal peace. True acceptance doesn't mean being passive or giving up on growth and change. It means fully acknowledging what is true in this moment without the additional layer of mental resistance. When something challenging happened during your day, instead of fighting with the reality of it, you can say to yourself, "This is what happened. This is what I'm feeling about it. This is where I am right now." Most of us have learned to approach life as if it's a constant negotiation with reality. We think that if we argue hard enough with what's happening, resist strongly enough, or worry intensely enough, we can somehow change what has already occurred or control what's going to happen. But this approach is like standing in front of a moving train and expecting it to stop because we don't want it to be there. The train doesn't care about our preferences, and our resistance only ensures we get run over. This doesn't mean we become doormats who never take action or try to improve our circumstances. Real acceptance is actually the foundation for effective action because it allows us to see situations clearly instead of through the fog of our emotional reaction. When you're not wasting energy fighting with reality, you have much more clarity and strength available for making wise decisions and taking purposeful action. Think about a time when you were really upset about something that happened. Maybe someone treated you unfairly, or you made a mistake that had consequences, or circumstances didn't unfold the way you hoped they would. Notice how much mental and emotional energy you spent replaying the situation, imagining how it could have gone differently, getting angry at the people involved, or beating yourself up for your role in what happened. All of that energy was focused on something that was already over and couldn't be changed. Now imagine if you had been able to acknowledge the situation fully, the facts of what happened, your feelings about it, the disappointment or hurt or frustration you experienced without adding the layer of mental resistance. Instead of fighting with reality, you simply said, yes, this happened. Yes, I feel this way about it. Yes, this is where I am right now. When you stop arguing with what is, something remarkable happens. The emotional charge around the situation naturally begins to settle. Just like muddy water becomes clear when you stop stirring it, this settling doesn't mean you stop caring or that you become emotionally numb. It means you are relating to your experience with wisdom instead of reactivity. You're still fully present to what you're feeling and experiencing, but you're not adding extra suffering on top of whatever natural pain might be involved. In your nighttime practice, you gently review the day's events with this spirit of acceptance. For the things that went well, you appreciate them without clinging to them or trying to recreate them. Good experiences come and go naturally, and trying to hold on to them too tightly actually prevents you from fully enjoying them when they're happening. For the things that were difficult or painful, you acknowledge them without resistance or self-judgment. This practice teaches you the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is unavoidable. Things happen in life that hurt, disappoint, and challenge us. But suffering is what we add when we fight against the reality of our pain. When you practice acceptance, you're not trying to avoid pain or pretend that difficult things don't affect you. You're learning to experience whatever arises without the additional layer of mental resistance that turns inevitable pain into unnecessary suffering. As you develop this skill, you begin to notice how much lighter life feels when you're not constantly at war with your circumstances. You still have preferences and goals. You still work toward positive changes in your life, but you're no longer dependent on everything going your way for your peace of mind. This creates a profound sense of freedom because you're no longer at the mercy of external events for your internal well-being. People who have cultivated this quality of acceptance have a distinctive presence. They remain calm in challenging situations, not because they don't care, but because they understand that fighting with reality only makes things harder. They make better decisions because they're seeing situations as they actually are, rather than as they wish they were. They're more effective in their actions because they're working with life instead of against it. As you practice this acceptance each night, you develop an unshakable inner stability. External circumstances lose their power to throw you off balance because you're no longer dependent on everything going your way for your peace of mind. This is the ultimate freedom. Not freedom from challenges and difficulties, but freedom to remain at peace regardless of what life brings. The practice of inner listening, the fourth principle, involves developing a relationship with the deeper wisdom that exists within you. Most people live their entire lives listening to external voices, what society expects, what others think they should do, what the news tells them to worry about. They've forgotten how to access their own inner guidance. Each night, after you've cleared your mind and reflected with gratitude, spend a few moments in complete stillness, not trying to solve problems or figure things out, but simply listening to the quiet space within yourself. This isn't about hearing voices or getting mystical messages. It's about tuning into the subtle sense of knowing that exists beneath all the mental noise. Sometimes this inner wisdom comes as a gentle feeling about a decision you need to make. Sometimes it's a creative solution to a challenge you've been facing. Sometimes it's simply a sense of what direction to move in or what to focus on next. Often it's just a deep sense of peace and rightness about where you are in your journey. We live in the noisiest time in human history. From the moment we wake up until we go to sleep, we are bombarded with other people's opinions, advertisements trying to tell us what we need, social media showing us how we should live, news media telling us what we should fear. In all this external noise, we've lost touch with our own inner voice, that quiet knowing that has always been there waiting patiently for us to remember how to listen. This inner wisdom, something you need to create or develop. It's something that already exists within you. Think about times in your life when you just knew something was right or wrong, even when you couldn't explain why logically. Maybe it was a gut feeling about a person you met, an intuition about a job opportunity, or a sense of which path to take when you were facing a difficult decision. This knowing didn't come from thinking or analyzing. It came from a deeper place of clarity and understanding. The problem is that most of us have been trained to ignore this inner guidance in favor of external authority. We've been taught that the answers are always outside ourselves in books, experts, teachers, leaders, or popular opinion. While external guidance can certainly be valuable, when we lose connection with our own inner wisdom, we become like ships without compasses, constantly blown around by whatever wind happens to be strongest at the moment. The key is to approach this listening without agenda. You are not trying to get answers or solve problems. You're simply creating space for whatever wisdom wants to emerge. This might feel strange at first, especially if you're used to constantly thinking and analyzing. Your mind might immediately jump in with questions like, what should I do about this situation? Or, how do I solve this problem? But that's not the kind of listening we are practicing here. Instead, you're cultivating what could be called receptive awareness. When you create an internal environment of openness and curiosity, you are stepping into a way of being that is deeply different from the usual pace and pressure of life. Most of the time, we carry a constant mental checklist, questions to answer, problems to solve, things to figure out. Our minds run like engines on overdrive, fueled by the belief that peace comes only when everything is fixed, everything is understood, everything is neatly in place. But this approach often leaves us feeling restless because life rarely offers such certainty. There is always one more question, one more unknown, one more layer to unravel. Instead, when you choose openness without demanding outcomes, something shifts. It's like sitting quietly in a forest and simply allowing the forest to be its. You hear the soft rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird, the faint hum of insects, the occasional whisper of wind through the branches. You didn't make any of these sounds happen. You didn't plan them or control them. You simply became still enough to notice. That same principle applies within you. Inside, there is a constant movement of thoughts, feelings, and impressions. Some are loud, some subtle. Some carry the weight of past experiences, while others emerge like fleeting shadows with no clear meaning. When you listen inwardly with openness, you stop trying to force answers or silence what you feel. You allow everything to be just as it is, without judgment, without rushing to fix anything. This alone is profoundly healing. Sometimes in this space of quiet listening inside you, a sense of clarity might arise about a decision you've been wrestling with. A memory might surface that brings unexpected understanding. Or you might feel a gentle nudge toward the next step in life. But here's the surprising part. Even when no big answers appear, the simple act of being present with yourself creates a deep well of peace. It's a peace that doesn't depend on having life figured out. It doesn't require all the pieces to fall into place. This kind of peace comes from the realization that beneath all the noise, the plans, the worries, the endless striving, there is a quiet center within you that remains untouched. Like the stillness at the heart of a forest, it is always there, waiting for you to notice it. The more often you return to this inner space with openness and curiosity, the more you begin to trust it. You start to realize that life doesn't always need to be pushed or controlled. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply to listen, to breathe, to allow. And in that allowing, you find the profound stillness and freedom your heart has been longing for all along.